Hey everyone, and welcome back to Holding the Line, a logistics at a Crossroads podcast. It's me, your girl Gia. And by the time you hear this, it will be a heavy day, December 7th. And before we dive in, I want to take a breath for the weight of this date. December 7th, a day etched into our national memory, Pearl Harbor. It wasn't just an attack. It was a moment that changed the trajectory of millions of lives. And 80 plus years later, we still honor those who lived through that morning. The service members who never came home. The families who still carry the grief forward. And the generation that rebuilt from imaginable loss. Our thoughts are with them today. Their resilience is a reminder. Even in the darkest hours, this country has always found its way forward. And maybe that's why this episode feels even heavier. Because the struggles Americans face right now, though different, still ask us to dig deep, to look out for each other, and to see the human story behind the headlines. And here's the headline. More Americans are getting their utilities shut off. Not because they're reckless, not because they're careless, but because prices have jumped 11% since January, which also happens to be 3 times the rate of inflation. And no, that's not a TikTok headline. That's Washington Post data. Shutoffs increased in 8 of the 11 states where the data was available. An aid for low-income heating assistance is still timidly stuck in limbo after the government reopened. Local agencies are still scrambling to fill the gaps that they didn't create. And as we all know, utilities aren't luxuries. They aren't impulse buys. They're lifelines. And right now, those lifelines are fraying. The shutdown may have ended, thankfully, but the damage didn't. If you look at a U.S. Today report, heating assistant funds still haven't arrived. And the cold weather has moved in. Electricity costs are ballooning right when people need the most. And here's the twist. The one most folks don't realize. More home heating relies on electricity than ever before. And what does that mean? When electricity spikes, winter tends to become dangerous. And let's talk the bill. The real bill from real households. When USA Today put out their poll, they pulled federal numbers showing the average electricity bill, June to August, was 5% from last year. That's a 34% increase since 2019. And I will attest that in July alone, if the average was 204, the highest in over a decade, my personal light bill for one person who works 60 plus hours a week was $225. And I wasn't home. A lot. But here's the kicker. The wages didn't rise. They surely did not rise 34%. My mortgage didn't pause. Renters didn't pause paying their rent. And the food bill did not back down. Insurance didn't ease up. You know what did happen? Everything climbed. Everything went right on up through the roof. But our paychecks. And that's a whole nother episode that we get into later, but I'm just going to say, prices are rising, but our money's staying put. And honestly, this isn't a spending problem. It's a math problem. And what I mean by that is, if the cost of living and the income to support it aren't even speaking the same language anymore, that's when survival costs require the buy now, pay later. Payment plans for utilities. Borrowing from one bill to pay another, i.e., robbing Peter to pay Paul or Paul to pay Peter. And that's not a convenience. That's collapse. When utilities get shut off, when groceries split into 4 payments, when the cost of simply existing rises, do you know what does happen? Consumption changes. And when consumption changes, imports soften. Distribution centers see erratic throughput. Retail forecasts drop. Ports feel lower TEUs before analysts say the word recession. Small carriers feel the contraction first. Warehousing shifts from overstock, they go straight to stockouts, and then they have to follow up with correction loops. Peak season is no longer peaking. And drayage volumes, well, those are quite softening. And this is the quiet freight recession. The one built from household budgets, not headlines. People losing their utilities isn't just a bill issue. It's not just that they don't want to pay their bill. It's the fact they can't. And when that happens, it becomes a dignity issue. People are charging phones in their cars. They're heating their homes with ovens. They've stopped buying groceries to keep the lights on. And they are turning to multiple buy now, pay laters to fill the fridge. And a lot of them are hiding these overdue utilities from their partners. The elderly are choosing between medicine and electricity. And they're hiding it from their families. Survival shouldn't require shame. And the U.S. has no cohesive plan for the cost of living crisis. We are patching holes in the sinking boat. Honestly, we need faster release of assistance funds. We need consumer protections during federal shutdowns. We need utility regulations that actually match reality. Caps on aggressive utility pricing, especially for winter spikes. Logistics models that anticipate survival-based spending. We need it all. And when people can't afford electricity, how do we expect them to pay for groceries in one shot? That's how the BNPLs get you in. When they can't keep up with utilities, is it any surprise that BNPLs are exploding? When rages. See, I'm raging. I don't want to rage. I just want to have a conversation. I want to be open about it. When our wages can't touch our mortgages and our rent, people begin to finance dinner. When people finance their dinners, which is worse than a credit card situation by the pay in full, we're living in a survival economy, not a stable one. I'm just going to say it. The lights going off across America aren't just a financial warning. It's a logistics warning, an economic warning, and a national warning. The bridge between the personal debt crisis and the structural cracks forming beneath our supply chain over the next few months will tell us a lot about where our economy really is headed. This has been episode 39 of Holding the Line, a Logistics at a Crossroads podcast. And until next time, I'll be right here, reading the signs, connecting the dots, and navigating the crossroads with you.